Good morning, my friend. I'm watching the old people attempt to recase things. They're over here messing with cell phones. I'll put this like this so you can see Mama Joyful there.
Look how bent over I am. Oh my
Wow.
gosh, I'm gummy.
Yep, she's my grandmother. We'll all just watch.
Don't
Oh,
get me laughing again this morning.
my abs hurt from laughing yesterday. That could be from all the stuff I've been lifting. I don't know what. All right. April 19th, David destroys the Amalekites. 1 Samuel 30, 1 through 31. 3 days later, when David and his men arrived home at their town of Ziklag, they found the Amalekites had made a raid into the Negev and Ziklag. They had crushed Ziklag and burned it to the ground. They had carried off the women and children and everyone else without killing anyone. When David and his men saw the ruins and realized what had happened to their families, they wept until they could weep no more. David's two wives, Ahinoam from Jezreel and Abigail, the widow of Nabal from Carmel, were among those captured. David was now in great danger because all of his men were very bitter about losing their sons and daughters, and they began to talk of stoning him. But David found strength in the Lord his God. And then he said to Abiathar the priest, "Bring me the ephod." So Abiathar brought it. And then David asked the Lord, "Should I chase after this band of raiders? Will I catch them?" And the Lord told him, "Yes, go after them. You will surely recover everything that was taken from you." So David and his 600 men set out, and they came to the brook Besor. But 200 of the men were too exhausted to cross the brook. So David continued the pursuit with 400 men. Along the way, they found an Egyptian man in a field and brought him to David. They gave him some bread to eat and water to drink. They also gave him part of a fig cake and 2 clusters of raisins, for he hadn't had anything to eat or drink for 3 days and nights. Before long, his strength returned. "To whom do you belong, and where do you come from?" David asked him. "I am an Egyptian, the slave of an Amalekite," he replied. "My master abandoned me 3 days ago because I was sick. We were on our way back from raiding the Kerethites in the Negev, the territory of Judah, and the land of Caleb, and we had just burned Ziklag." "Will you lead me to this band of raiders?" David asked. The young man replied, "If you take an oath in God's name you will not kill me or give me back to my master, then I will guide you to them." So he led David to them, and they found the Amalekites spread out across the fields, eating and drinking and dancing with joy because of the vast amount of plunder they had taken from the Philistines in the land of Judah. David and his men rushed in among them and slaughtered them throughout the night and the entire next day until evening. None of the Amalekites escaped except 400 young men who fled on camels. David got back everything the Amalekites had taken, and he rescued his 2 wives. Nothing was missing, small or great, son or daughter, nor anything else that had been taken. David brought everything back. He had also recovered all the flocks and herds, and his men drove them ahead of the other livestock. "This plunder belongs to David," they said. Then David returned to the brook Besor and met up with 200 men who had been left behind because they were too exhausted to go with him. They went out to meet David and his men, and David greeted them joyfully. Are we done?
I'm sorry.
We're that loud. Way over
I can't read. I get confused when people are talking in the background. I can't read and talk at the same time.
Is your doorbell on?
You can go out. The alarm is off. But some evil troublemakers among David's men said, "They didn't go with us, so they can't have any of the plunder we recovered. Give them their wives and children and tell them to be gone." But David said, "No, my brothers, don't be selfish with what the Lord has given us. He has kept us safe and helped us defeat the band of raiders that attacked us. Who will listen when you talk like this? We share and share alike, those who go to battle and those who guard the equipment." From then on, David made this decree and regulation for Israel, and it's still followed today. When he arrived at Ziklag, David sent part of the plunder to the elders of Judah, who were his friends. "Here is a present for you. Taken from the Lord's enemies," he said. These gifts were sent to the people of the following towns David had visited: Bethel, Ramoth Negev, Jadar, Arior, Shifmoth, Eshtemoa, Rachel, and the towns of the Jerahmeelites, the towns of the Kenites, Hormah, Bor Ashan, Adak, Hebron, and all the other places David and his men had visited. 1 Chronicles 12:20 through 22. Here's the list of men from Manasseh who defected to David as he was returning to Ziklag. Adnah, Jozabad, Jadiel, Michael, Jozabad, Elihu, Zilithai. Each commanded 1,000 troops from the tribe of Manasseh. They helped David chase down a band of raiders, for they were all brave and able warriors who became commanders in his army. Day after day, the more men joined David until he had a great army, like the army of God. The death of Saul, 1 Samuel 31, 1 through 13. Now Meredith said they're trying to get on Bassie's level of distraction.
That don't take much.
All right. No dad's squeaking toys. Now the Philistines attacked Israel, and the men of Israel fled before them. Many were slaughtered on the slopes of Mount Gilboa. The Philistines closed in on Saul and his sons, and they killed 3 of his sons, Jonathan, Abinadab, and Melchishua. The fighting grew very fierce around Saul, and the Philistine archers caught up with him and wounded him severely. Saul groaned to his armor-bearer, "Take your sword and kill me before these pagan Philistines come to run through me and taunt and torture me." But his armor-bearer was afraid and would not do it. So Saul took his own sword and fell on it. When his armor-bearer realized that Saul was dead, he fell on his own sword and died beside his king. That's commitment. So Bassie agrees. So Saul, his 3 sons, his armor-bearer, and his troops all died together that same day. When the Israelites on the other side of Jezreel Valley and beyond the Jordan saw that the Israelite army had fled and that Saul and his sons were dead, they abandoned their towns and fled. So the Philistines moved in and occupied their towns. The next day, when the Philistines went out to strip the dead, they found the bodies of Saul, his 3 sons, on Mount Gilboa. So they cut off Saul's head and stripped off his armor. Then they proclaimed the good news of Saul's death in their pagan temple and to the people throughout the land of Philistia. They placed his armor in the temple of the Ashtoreth, and they fastened his body to the wall of the city of Bethshan. But when the people of Jabesh Gilead heard what the Philistines had done to Saul, all their mighty warriors traveled through the night to Bethshan and took the bodies of Saul and his sons down from the wall. They brought them to Jabesh, where they burned the bodies. And then they took their bones and buried them beneath the tamarisk tree at Jabesh, and they fasted for 7 days. 1 Chronicles 10, 1 through 14. Sebastian. Now the Philistines attacked Israel, and the men of Israel fled before them. Many were slaughtered on the slopes of Mount Gilboa. The Philistines closed in on Saul and his sons, and they killed 3 of his sons, Jonathan, Abinadab, and Melchishua. The fighting grew fierce around Saul, and the Philistine archers caught up with him and wounded him. Saul groaned to his armor-bearer, "Take your sword and kill me before these pagan Philistines come and taunt and torture me." But his armor-bearer was afraid and would not do it. So Saul took his own sword and fell on it. When his armor-bearer realized that Saul was dead, he fell on his own sword and died. So Saul and his 3 sons died there together, bringing his dynasty to an end. When all the Israelites in the Jezreel Valley saw that the army had fled and that Saul and his sons were dead, they abandoned their towns and fled. So the Philistines moved in and occupied their towns. The next day, when the Philistines went out to strip the dead, they found the bodies of Saul and his sons on Mount Gilboa. So they stripped off Saul's armor and cut off his head. They proclaimed the good news of Saul's death before their idols and the people throughout the land of Philistia. They placed his armor in the temple of their gods, and they fastened his head to the temple of Dagon. But when everyone in Jabesh Gilead heard about everything the Philistines had done to Saul, all their mighty warriors brought the bodies of Saul and his sons back to Jabesh. Then they buried their bones beneath the great tree at Jabesh, and they fasted for 7 days. So Saul died because he was unfaithful to the Lord. He failed to obey the Lord's command and even consulted a medium, instead of asking the Lord for guidance. So the Lord killed him and turned the kingdom over to David, son of Jesse. Jonathan's descendants, 1 Chronicles 9, 40 through 44. Jonathan was the father of Merib-Baal. Merib-Baal was the father of Micah. The sons of Micah were Pithon, Melech, Tariah, and Ahaz. Ahaz was the father of Jada. Jada was the father of Elameth, Esmaveth, and Zimri. Zimri was the father of Moza. Moza was the father of Biniah. Biniah's son was Rephiah. Rephiah's son was Eliasah. Eliasah's son was Azel. Azel had 6 sons whose names were Azrikam, Bacharu, Ishmael, Shariah, Obadiah, and Hanan. These were the sons of Azel. 2 Samuel 4:4. Saul's son Jonathan had a son named Mephibosheth, who was crippled as a child. He was 5 years old when the report came from Jezreel that Saul and Jonathan had been killed in battle. When the child's nurse heard the news, she picked him up and fled. But as she hurried away, she dropped him and he became crippled. David learns of Saul's death. 2 Samuel 1:1-16. After the death of Saul, David returned from his victory over the Amalekites and spent 2 days in Ziklag. On the 3rd day, a man arrived from Saul's army camp. He had torn his clothes and put dirt on his head to show he was in mourning. He fell to the ground before David in deep respect. "Where have you come from?" David asked. "I escaped from the Israelite camp," the man replied. "What happened?" David demanded. "Tell me how the battle went." The man replied, "Our entire army fled from battle. Many of the men are dead, and Saul and his son Jonathan are also dead." "How do you know Saul and Jonathan are dead?" David demanded of the young man. The man answered, "I happened to be on Mount Gilboa, and there was Saul leaning on his spear with the enemy chariots and charioteers closing in on him. When I turned and he saw me, he cried out for me to come to him. 'How can I help?' I asked him. He responded, 'Who are you?' 'I am an Amalekite,' I told him. Then he begged me, 'Come over here and put me out of my misery, for I am in terrible pain and want to die.' So I killed him," the Amalekite told David, "for I knew he couldn't live. Then I took his crown and his armband, and I have brought them here to you, my lord." David and his men tore their clothes in sorrow when they heard the news. They mourned and wept and fasted all day for Saul and his son Jonathan, and for the Lord's army and the nation of Israel, because they had died by the sword that day. Then David said to the young man who had brought the news, "Where are you from?" And he replied, "I am a foreigner, an Amalekite, who lives in your land." "Why were you not afraid to kill the Lord's anointed one?" David asked. Then David said to one of his men, "Kill him." So the man thrust his sword into the Amalekite and killed him. "You have condemned yourself," David said, "for you yourself confessed that you killed the Lord's anointed one." David's song for Saul and Jonathan, 2 Samuel 1:17-27. Then David composed a funeral song for Saul and Jonathan, and he commanded that it be taught to the people of Judah. It is known for the song of the bow, and it is recorded in the book of Jasher. "Your pride and joy, O Israel, lies dead on the hills. Oh, how the mighty heroes have fallen. Don't announce the news in Gath. Don't proclaim it in the streets of Ashkelon, or the daughters of the Philistines will rejoice, and the pagans will laugh in triumph. O mountains of Gilboa, let there be no dew or rain upon you, nor fruitful fields producing offerings of grain. For there are shields of mighty heroes. For there the shields of mighty heroes was defiled. The shield of Saul will no longer be anointed with oil. The bow of Jonathan was powerful, and the sword of Saul did its mighty work. They shed the blood of their enemies and pierced the bodies of mighty heroes. How beloved and gracious were Saul and Jonathan. They were together in life and in death. They were swifter than eagles, stronger than lions. O women of Israel, weep for Saul, for he dressed you in luxurious scarlet clothing, in garments decorated with gold. Oh, how the mighty heroes have fallen in battle. Jonathan lies dead on the hills. How I weep for you, my brother Jonathan. Oh, how much I loved you, and your love for me was deep, deeper than the love of women. Oh, how mighty heroes have fallen. Stripped of their weapons, they lie dead. All right. Let's do our poetry. Let's make sure I'm on the right page today. Okay. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are the Jesus that came as a baby boy. Yes, you are the greatest love story. Yes, you are love, grace, and glory. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are the glory in the darkest night. Yes, you are the morning star shining bright. Yes, you are the word giving light. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are the throne of grace. Your love has set me free. Yes, you are the lily. When all hope is gone, you bloom for me. Yes, you are the glory of holiness for your people to see. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are the grace and more grace, you open the door. Yes, you are the Lord of lords and the King of kings, and so much more. Yes, you are everything, no longer to be poor. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are my mercy when on the cross you died. Yes, you are my grace that's moving out the pride. Yes, you are my righteousness came to live inside. Yes, you are life to me. Yes, you are life to me. February 15th, 2008. Okay.
You think I sent a card to a wrong person
I'll help you when I'm done.
to cancel it?
Yeah. Thank you for all the praying as we worshiped my mother into the arms of Jesus. My mother-in-law into the arms of Jesus. Please keep us in your prayers as we do all the stuff now and figure out our new normal. Mallory says, please whisper a little prayer for my grandson Braddock. He was playing at the ball fields last night and ran under a metal sign. He has 7 staples on the top of his head. Good night. That's gotta feel good. Thank you, Shirley. Thank you. All right, my friends, let's go ahead and end in prayer. Father God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the time we've had together so far. And I thank you and praise you for all these ladies showing up each day for devotions and the time they spend here in worship. God, we just lift up Braddock to you this morning, that you would comfort him. And I'm sure he's got a good headache. And I just pray that you will give him some peace and comfort today. I also pray for Angela and pray that she's feeling better today. God, we also pray for Pam and her husband as they figure out their new normal after losing their mother-in-law, and I just pray for peace there. God, we also lift up Faith to you today for healing and for peace over her situation as she gets ready for chemo. And I just more than anything right now, just pray for your peace over her. And of course, God, we ask for your divine healing for Faith. God, as we go through our day, I just pray that everyone we encounter will know the love of Christ by the way we treat them, by the way we encourage them, and just that show them love. And I just pray as we also, as we go through our day, that you will help us to honor you with everything that goes into our mouths and everything that comes out of them. In your precious name I pray. Amen. All right, my friends, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I have to go help Mom figure out tech issues on her phone again. It's Technical Support Week here in the York household, where we set up iPhones and install apps and fix watches and right. I'm gonna make her start paying $199 a year for technical support for a subscription.
Then guess what? We go back to regular phones and regular watches.
My help is not worth $200.
I was thinking how our daughter, we raised you, we're obligated.
You're obligated. $200.
Oh, all right, my friends. I love you guys. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you back we're headed to First Watch. We're going to go eat some breakfast. Bacon, because bacon at First Watch is unlike any bacon on the planet. So we're going to go eat bacon. I love you guys. I hope you have an amazing day.